What's the biggest mistake people make when they try to sell their business too quickly? Usually, when we're talking about selling a business, it is a complex process. So, there is an expectation with business owners that it's going to take some time. Sometimes they're surprised at how long it can take. It's typically 6 months to about 12 months or 6 months to 9 months for a really good business. But sometimes somebody's in a hurry, and usually that is because of personal circumstances. And while I do empathize that sometimes you have to sell quickly, it can cause problems that are they're best avoided. And I'm going to run you through some of them. If you don't prepare your business properly to sell, this means that you won't have your financials in order. You won't have all the information available that a buyer needs to see. I worked with somebody that they wanted to just sell the business quickly, and they were of the mindset that this is what I have and this is what you have to work with, and we need to find a buyer. So even if you do your best to take your business to market when you're not prepared because you're rushing, you're going to the speed, the momentum that you gain by going quickly to sell is going to get slowed down and weighted down by everything that the buyer needs. And they're going to slow you down because they're going to get stuck at points, and they're going to be right in the beginning, right up front. They're just going to get stuck and they're not going to be able to move any further because you can't give them what they're looking for. So that would be the first mistake that people make, is that they aren't properly prepared. And it's like just right out of the gate. You're just not ready. Okay. The next mistake that people make is missing market conditions. So, not understanding what's happening in the market. And if you don't understand what's happening in the market, then you can undervalue your business. You you need to be aware of your industry, your area, what's happening, what are similar size businesses in your industry selling for, what are the valuations, what are the actual comps on those. And that takes time. You have to do your market analysis, because when a business is valued, you go by the numbers, the historical financials, the balance sheet, all of the tangible and intangible assets, but then you also have to look at the market. So rushing will many times cause a big mistake because you're not even going to take the time to look at that. Overlooking due diligence, this is another headache that can, unfortunately, you can't sell a business without being willing to go through a proper due diligence process. And if you do want to sell the business without going through a proper due diligence process, you're probably going to find a buyer that wants to heavily discount because they don't know what they're buying, or you could end up in post closing dispute, whereas you didn't disclose everything, you couldn't provide everything. And then suddenly you have an unhappy buyer once they take over the business because they weren't able to do the proper analysis. So you want to very, very much avoid that scenario where you just rush through, somehow go through due diligence and allow somebody to buy the business without them properly analyzing it. That would be a big mistake, because if you are trying to sell in a hurry, your end goal is going to be to exit your business, not have the responsibility of running it and not have the headaches of that anymore. If it's a situation where you need to take care of something else in your life, and then if you're stuck in disputes with the new owner afterwards, then that's counterproductive. This is just going to be an absolute headache for you. Neglecting operations is another big one. So here's the scenario. You have somebody that's decided, I have to sell my business now. They're not ready. They don't have all the information available. They've picked a buyer, and now the buyer needs all of this information from them. They've received an offer. And so just don't have the mental capacity or the physical energy to focus on running the business because they're too busy scrambling, trying to get through this selling process. And then what happens? Well, business maybe declines because we know it's not, even though you need to move quickly, due diligence doesn't move that quickly. There are accountants involved, there are lawyers involved, and they need to check certain boxes for their clients, for the buyer. So if you take your eye off the ball and you're not running the business, you have to know that the buyer of your business they want to buy the same business that they put the offer in on. They don't want to receive a different business at closing. So if a key person leaves, if you lose a key customer, if you have a dispute with a vendor, any of these types of things that, need attention from an operator, if those are overlooked and then the buyer is buying headaches, that's also going to be a problem. And again, it could end up with disputes post closing. Accepting the first offer or the wrong offer. So I'll give you some examples. Well, if you get an offer on the business and maybe it's a friendly competitor or, maybe it's just somebody that you know that has always wanted to buy the business and you accept the offer and you move through the process. Well, how do you know that it's a good offer? We know that you haven't prepared properly. We know that you haven't done your market analysis to see what other businesses are selling for. So how do you even know if this is a good offer? And then accepting the wrong offer. So I have seen a situation where somebody was in a hurry and they did have multiple buyers, but for whatever reason, they felt most comfortable with one of the buyers and they felt like they could get the deal done with that buyer from a personality standpoint. But it was the wrong buyer. They weren't as financially strong as the other buyer who was making them an all cash offer. And they actually had liquid funds available. They didn't have to go and get bank financing. So accepting the wrong offer, because you're making decisions based on emotions, right? If you're rushing to sell your business, this is another one of the biggest mistakes that you'll make, is that most of your decisions are going to be emotionally driven because you're under stress. Kind of everywhere you look, somebody needs something else from you and it's stressing you out. And then you probably have this personal matter to take care of. So taking the first offer or taking the wrong offer, I think is a big mistake. And at the end of the day, this is a process and it is a very, no matter how small your business is, it is a complicated process because people involved, there's cash flow involved, there's revenue involved, there are assets involved, and all of these things need to, first of all, be vetted by the buyer and meet the acceptable standards that they're looking for the offer that they're making. And then everybody needs to play their part. In your business, you're like the conductor and you are overseeing the orchestra. And this is no different. As you're selling your business, you also have to be running your business. So those are some of the biggest mistakes that you can make if you rush the process. I would say, how do you avoid this? You would have to prepare as soon as you can. And I think if I was in a situation where I had to sell my business quickly, I would engage with professionals to help me. I wouldn't try to do it on my own. At least then you will have a support system, whether it be your accountant, your lawyer, you're going to need those people anyway. But even if you decide to engage with a business broker, the best thing you can do is be upfront with them about everything. Just tell them what the problems are, what solutions you're looking for, and then they can help you to properly prepare so that you don't end up making some of these mistakes that I've talked about. I hope that helps.